Hi, this is going to be a quick walkthrough of the verifiable document lifecycle management system from Dhiway called MARKstudio. MARKstudio enables any organization or an administrator, any individual to essentially create a design and for a verifiable document that they want to issue. MARKstudio comes inbuilt with around 60 plus templates, so you are not actually starting from scratch and ground up. You can choose one of the various designs templates that we have for things like learning and education record, skilling and knowledge record, or workplace credentials, and then get started by making some of the design element changes, adding your own things like logo assets and stuff, and get started. But before I go to a quick walkthrough of the MARKstudio system, let's think about something that is why this is all necessary. Now, one of the things that often get reported in the mainstream media, not in high volume, but sometimes this is what you see on screen is a small selection of the reports from the last 6 months. You can figure out that current the reports on various kinds of forgery and tampering is really common. There is the abuse of various available records is very commonplace, and it's not limited to one or two kinds of things. It could be learning and education records, skilling and knowledge records, and workplace experience record, and even like things related to travel. So the mainstream media reports on the credential tampering and forgery and all of that are really a tip of the iceberg because it's very difficult to detect tampering in the current way of how records are managed, the printed manner, and regardless of how much you add security features to the record, it would always be nearly impossible to check because the person verifying it may not be well versed and trained with all of this, right? So you might be adding 25 different security features to a printed record that you have, but the verifying party does not really know in great detail about the 25 ones or even the 20 essential ones that they need to check. They may or may not be able to figure out whether a record they are dealing with is original, authentic, or whether it's fraud. So there are two important things that are essential to keep in mind when dealing with any records that are issued. One is the fact that provenance, which means is it possible to figure out who issued it? The other thing is authenticity, which is like to be able to know whether the record's data integrity has been maintained. Now, because legacy approaches create a whole lot of data silos of student data, and printed documents are likely to get misplaced, damaged, or even like lost when they're submitted along with a whole bunch of other things. There's a large market in stolen credentials, and all this basically leads to the creation of trust deficits all across the place. We all stakeholders in this system, like the issuers, the recipients, the relying parties, and the verifiers. They have to deal with this risks which emerge from these trust deficits. And we want to keep that in mind when we are doing a walkthrough of MARKstudio, because MARKstudio has been designed to help institutions and all parties involved in this data exchange mechanism to be able to deal with the thing. Uh, ma- to to start with MARKstudio, there are three key things that we need to know. The fact that it has a designer that allows you to select one particular kind of template. As I said before, we had around 60 plus templates of various kinds that you can do. I'll select a very simple template of certificate kind, which is something we all understand. So certificate contains, we have seen that these are kind of the data fields that the certificate contains: the name of the recipient, the email ID, which is essentially how the certificate would be sent, the certificate ID, the event name, as the name of the certificate grade, and all of that. I'll choose a very simple certificate. This is all customizable elements. This is the hash mark or the QR that allows any verifier to determine the current state of the record. This is a very important thing. We'll come back to it when we are doing this. So this is the certificate template I'm going to use to the walkthrough. I'll create a space which is oh, a directory or a folder or a location where certificates and records of a single type are stored. So let's say I create a space for a teacher training certificate. Uh, I'll remove this. These are all additional information that sometimes organizations, for instance, if this teacher training course or a workshop is actually has a web page or a microsite, you can add a link to the microsite, and those who are trying to verify the record they can be redirected to that. They can actually find out, okay, this is how or what it is linked with. This is the event. These are the prerequisites for participating and what was covered and all of that. So a lot of institutions do this to also do a bit of contextual information sharing. So let's just change all of this. And what I'll do is I'll add this design to the space. It's a simple design. I'll create the space. I have now opportunity to add one and many records. I'll choose many. It allows you to download a sample CSV and or a spreadsheet. And since I have already downloaded one and filled it up, I'll add that. I've added this. These look good. So preview looks good. I'll add the records. Now that the records are added, they're in draft state. They're not yet issued. So what I'm going to do is actually issue two records. This allows you to add a custom message when you're sending to the recipient. This field allows you to add an organization and address should you want to keep a digital copy of the record and all that separately from the system. These records have been issued. So how do they look? This is the organization administrator view of it, but the actual view of it is something like this. And this is going to be the view when somebody is presented with the record and they scan this hash mark, and they'll be able to see how the certificate was designed, the design of the certificate, as well as the details of the certificate. So all the details of the record of the credential, as well as who it was issued by, and all of that. So this is the verifier view, or what the verifier sees. Now, this is an important thing because verification is essentially what ensures that the records that move around in the system. So the liquidity of credentials is ensured by the verifier being able to receive reassurance that this is an authentic record issued by a proven issuer or a known issuer. So let's do something that we haven't done yet, which is uh, if we assume that, oh, wrong record, sorry about this slightly. Let's say this record from Tina needed to be changed, the name needed to be changed, and so we actually made an update. We saved the record will go through an update where the name has changed. As you can see, if you go to the history tab, that you actually, the record was created, the record was anchored on the blockchain. This was the block hash that one can use to check up this record on the entry on the blockchain. This is the update, and the update, if the organization clicks on it, they will be able to see what the feed was changed and what was the change to. Now, if the verifier now wants in a traditional system, when we have had a record issued as a PDF, it's not anchored on the blockchain. Unless all of those, unless the verifier was actually presented with a newer copy of the record, they would still know that this was issued to Tina. But in this case, because this is anchored on the blockchain and the change was also updated on the blockchain, if the verifier were to scan this QR, they would see the current state of the record, which means in this case it would be changed. Oh, this is an important element that we need to pay attention to because it adds what we call a time dimension to data. Because at this point in time, you're always aware of what is the current state of the record, right? This record is, as you can see, this record is active and issued. Now, what happens if, let's say, if I go back and for some reason, Mona says that this record needs to be revoked, or the institution decides that this record needs to be revoked. I revoke this record. Now, in a traditional system, again, the one that we used to, paper-based systems, unless all circulated copies of the record are withdrawn from circulation and then destroyed, someone will have a copy of the record that would say that it is an active and valid record, right? Well, what happens if with a verifiable credential like the one that we are issuing through MARKstudio? If the verifier scans the record, they're going to have the detail that says that the record has been revoked. As you can see, it clearly says that. So this is what I mean when I say that there is time dimension to data. Now, this is important because Going back to what we started with, abuse of credentials is very common. And just because there is a secure system that uh, gets the record from the issuer to a recipient, or let's say a secure pipeline, that is not sufficient. What we need is secure systems to that actually issue, because at being able to create authenticity and provenance at the issuance creates a higher level of assurance for the records that are in circulation. So this is the key concept that is provided by MARKstudio. You end up issuing records, creating, designing, and issuing records, and managing them in such a manner that it is easy to always have an updated state of the record and be able to know that as to why some records are the other thing is that uh, enabling simple click-through verification allows everybody to be confident of doing this without the need for cumbersome processes where you have to call the issuing organizations to check, or go through background verification checks by third parties and all of that. Now, the key thing to take away from this demo is fairly simple. I'm going to stop this. The key thing over here is fairly simple. It's the fact that any kind of documents needs to have the attributes of provenance and authenticity, because attributes of provenance and authenticity ensures that whoever is dealing with the document can trust the document. Without trust, all of this will fail. And MARKstudio allows issuing organizations to create highly trustworthy documents that include provenance, that include authenticity, and are thus of a higher quality than a traditional version. Hope you like this walkthrough. Thank you so much. You can get started with MARKstudio by going to our website, Dhiway.com, and then logging into MARKstudio. It's free. As you can actually start by the price. You can check the pricing. You can get started with this plan, which allows you up to 1,200 credentials across the year, or 100 credentials per month, free to get started, and see how you can transition from your current system to something that's far more secure, more modern, and allows everyone who's a stakeholder in the system to gain from the amount of trust that you're building in. Thank you.